Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Business Boutique for Health Pros. I'm here with Leslie Patel. Leslie, thanks so much for joining and hosting.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all. Great to see you, Kiki.
And we were just chatting about today's episode because not only is it an awesome name, but it is an awesome topic. Today, Leslie is going to very lovingly but forcefully convince us to push that damn button. And what button are we talking about? We all know it. It's that scariest button on our phone, on our computer screen. It says usually 2 words, and it's go live. So whether you're
That's
watching
right.
or listening and you've done lives before, or whether this is new to you, I absolutely know you're going to get a lot of value out of this. So stay tuned. And Leslie, where should we begin?
Yeah, well, I love this topic. So let's start by talking about why this is so relevant. All right, so here's the deal. We all know that public speaking ranks as really one of the most nerve-wracking experiences, not for everybody, but for many people, right? And I would say multiply that fear times like 1,000 when it comes to doing a live stream especially for the first time. It just is really hard to push that damn button, isn't it? So, and here's the thing too, especially now, given everything going on with COVID, and we can't depend on some of those older ways that we had before to get in front of our audiences, to access our audience. So now it's really up to us to be creative and, quite frankly, assertive, to find new and creative ways to access our audience and to develop that all important know, like, and trust. So that's what I'm hoping to help each of you do today in today's episode is, again, regardless of whether this is your absolute first time, if you're trying to conjure up that courage to push that damn button with confidence, or if this is your 100th live stream. I think today's topic is going to help you get the courage to do it with confidence and also to really amp up the quality of your live stream. So that's our intention today.
Love it. Might as well, if you're going to do it, might as well do it with confidence.
You bet. So how about if we jump into some of the tips that I have to share? How's that sound, Kiki?
Perfect. Let's do
We're
it.
ready to jump in? All right. So, okay. So the first thing that I want to share with you is you want to be clear on, basically you want to prepare your topic. Now, what this means, well, what it doesn't mean is to overthink it. Okay. So I do want to be clear about that. I don't think it's necessary. You do not have to write out a script. You don't have to overthink this part, but you do need to prepare the topic. You want to decide what is the topic you're going to cover and what is that outcome that you want to deliver for your audience. So you do want to try to have some clarity around that. And I find it very helpful to put my content ideas into 2 buckets. All right. The first bucket would be, what are some common questions that my audience is asking? Okay. So what are they asking for? Usually these are top of mind challenges and struggles that they're experiencing in their own lives. So that makes for incredibly great content. So what I would recommend is that you just keep track of, what are the questions coming in, and maybe, keep a little list, keep a list of these somewhere so you can refer to that and get some great ideas for your content. The second bucket of content is a little bit different. So the second category could potentially be, what are some topics that your audience needs to know? Maybe they don't even know they need to know. So that makes for some really great content as well. So I think given those 2 options, you should be able to come up with some really good ideas. So I actually have a couple of examples that I can share just to kind of drive that point home. So like in what I do, right, in my world as a business strategist and coach for health professionals and coaches. So a lot of times people come to me, they're brand new in their practices, they're trying to grow their business and get clients. So like they might come to me and say, well, Leslie, what are the different forms I need to have, or what goes on my website? What platform is the best, right? Things like that are very commonly asked. Or how can I use Instagram? That's a really common one too, to get more leads, because these are the topics that my audience often views as urgent. So of course I would want to, include some live streams to help answer those questions. Now, there's also lots of topics that I can draw from that maybe my audience doesn't even know that they would benefit from knowing. So what are some things, so they might not even know to ask. What would some examples of those types of questions be? Well, things like, how do I create online content in a more systematic way so that I attract more visitors to my website, right? So that would be a great thing for me to cover. And again, this is something that, maybe my audience wouldn't even know to ask that question unless they were a little bit more advanced. Or how do I get more qualified leads and actually schedule those discovery calls? So what do I say on that conversation in order to seal the deal without it feeling really salesy and icky, right? Or another example might be, how do I describe what I do to people in a way that really resonates? Like, help me with my messaging. So hopefully that helps to kind of distinguish those two categories. Is that helpful, Kiki?
Absolutely. I was actually going to say, oh, like, do you have examples? So I'm so happy that you read my mind on that. And I'm really happy that you shed light on, sometimes it is a matter of teaching the audience something that they don't know, but I would assume that it's always sort of still in their language, so that they can resonate with it quickly as like, oh, like, yes, I do actually need to know that, even if it didn't come to mind.
Exactly. And the thing I want to share too is that when you're developing your content, you don't feel like you have to take a super deep dive into each of these. It is definitely a little bit more topical because your live streams, they're not gonna, they're like 20 minutes is absolutely fine. And you really want to structure it with some key takeaways, kind of more high level. So that's another really important point. You don't have to like go into a ton of depth on each of these topics.
Makes sense.
So yeah, okay, awesome. So let's go on to the next thing. So step two, or my second tip, is to basically pick your platform. And so once you've decided on your topic, you've maybe kind of ironed out a few bullet points, some of the main teaching points that you want to share with your audience, and you've essentially also decided I guess you would call it your production quality, right? So what do I mean by production quality? Are you going to use your phone? Are you going to use your cell phone? Are you going to use your desktop? I guess a third option would be, are you going to use your desktop with maybe a third-party software involved, something like Ecamm or StreamYard or one of those? Or the fourth option would be to have, like an actual recording studio, which not a lot of people do, and I don't even know that it's necessary, quite
Get yourself a
frankly.
producer and a film crew.
Right, right. But just know that, hey, it is an option, certainly, if you really, really want to get into it, but probably not super necessary for our purposes. So once you figured out your topic and, what tool you're going to use to go live, the next step is to pick your platform. In other words, where are you going to go live? And this is a really common question. Do you get this question quite a bit yourself, Kiki?
Absolutely. And I mean, it's still one that I ask myself, because it's like, oh, like, do you go where you prefer to hang out, where your people hang out more? Is there always a clear, like, one is better than the other? Should you start somewhere versus, eventually build up to some? So I'm really curious as to the answer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's an interesting question, and it's not always a super easy call. I'll be really honest. Um, what I would say, well, the first thing you want to pick is like which social media platform you're going to go with, right? So, obviously we've got Instagram, we have Facebook, we have YouTube, we have LinkedIn. Those are the four that I can think of. So, I think what you want to do is you want to look at where your audience is hanging out, right? So if your audience is, obviously if they're on Instagram, I'd probably go with Instagram. The key here, though, this is a really important thing, is that you want to pick one and just go with it, right? Until you get traction. So I would say before you are trying to spread yourself too thin and going live in multiple places, I would just pick one spot and just go with it. So a lot of people, tend to think that, your business page on Facebook is the place to go. That's where I've chosen to go live myself. And there's a lot of reasons behind that. You can create an event, which we're going to talk about in a little while. You can use Messenger to remind people, which is kind of a cool option as well. Using like integrating messenger bots for reminders. And like people are definitely on Facebook, especially if your audience is just a little bit older. So if your audience is super, super young, then definitely Instagram. Again, I think you just pick one and you go with it. I think what a lot of people tend to do is they don't get immediate traction, so they stop and then they go to the next thing. And that's what I would not recommend. Just, make sure you give it a chance, and because it does take time to grow your audience regardless of what platform you choose. So then, so let's say, for example, you pick Facebook, just hypothetically. So another really common question is, okay, so I've chosen Facebook. Do I go live on my personal page, or do I go live in my group or on my business page? So then you've got like, several other options to decide on. And I can honestly say I kind of struggled with that myself, because I have a really, really big Facebook group, 3,000 plus people in it. And then, like there's just three options, and it was just kind of hard to choose. So what I ended up doing is, and that, I don't want to say go ahead and do this. I just feel like it worked for me. Is I picked a platform. Actually, I'm using StreamYard.
I just
And
used that for the first
StreamYard,
time last week and I really loved it. Yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah. So you got experience with StreamYard as well.
Yeah.
So each of these third-party platforms, there's pros and cons. But the one thing that's kind of cool about StreamYard is, at least right now, it's the only technology that allows you to stream in multiple places at once,
Mm.
right? So that kind of solved it for me. I decided, okay, I'm going to stream simultaneously on my business page and in my private Facebook group. So I think you can stream up to 5 places at once. Now, I got the thing though, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Because
And I don't think you should
okay,
necessarily have five different places or more than that, right?
exactly. So I mean, I don't consider myself a tech expert at all, but one thing I do know is you need a really powerful computer to be able to handle that, and you definitely need amazing Wi-Fi, or amazing, just internet,
Yeah.
in order to be able to stream in multiple places. So I don't think that my internet connection would be strong enough to be able to handle all that. But I think it does okay with two. So, so I've committed to, going live every week, same time, same day, every single week in these two places. And then, you just allow yourself to build momentum, and eventually your audience, what you're trying to do is create a habit. And eventually your audience, like, give them little reminders and they start to show up, and it becomes really fun. So, okay, so all right, so we talked about 2 steps so far, right? We have talked about, choosing your topic and, kind of organizing your content. The second step is picking your platform. And, again, I would really base that decision on where your audience is hanging out. And so you just want to pick one location and pretty much stick with it. And then once you've gotten traction, then think about what's next. So that would be my recommendation there. All right. So the third recommendation to rock your live streams is, basically you want to get people to show up, right? So I would recommend that you schedule your stream. So there's a couple different approaches to this. So especially, if you're just going live like from your phone and you're not using a third-party software, then obviously you just mark it in your calendar and you go live, right? It's pretty straightforward. If, however, you're using like a third party software in order to stream, StreamYard, Ecamm, um, there's BeLive.tv. So there's several different pieces of software you can use. Then if that is the case, you're going to obviously want to block out your calendar, and you're also going to want to schedule inside of that application, right? Because once you schedule inside the application, it pushes out, an announcement wherever it is that you're going live. So that's pretty cool. And then the other thing I would recommend is, even though, let's say, you are using that third party app, I would still recommend that you create an actual event, if you're planning on going live on your Facebook business page. Because what's cool about that is you can share that event all over the place. You can share it in other Facebook groups, you can share that event on your own private page, and that way people can click that little button, get a reminder. So I think that's really important as well. And the other thing, if you wanted to run ads to your live streams, it really helps if you created an event, right? So for those reasons, really my third tip is that you're scheduling and you're creating an event on Facebook,
And then you
because
can
you know
actually
you want to be
invite people as well, right? Versus just kind of
exactly.
on or like tell them or kind of do a post. But sometimes we need that extra nudge and that extra notification to to remember.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and that's actually a really good point. You can literally invite them through Messenger, which is, I think, a really great bonus as well. I think you can invite like 150 people, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they seem to be
Some
changing it all the
some
time.
random number. But nonetheless, it is really powerful to be able to do that. So, basically you want to get the word out, right? A couple of other things that you might do. I had mentioned messenger bots. That is something that we are playing with right now in my business, and it really does seem to help.
Mhm.
So people can opt in to get reminders whenever you go live. And the software that I recommend for that, it's called ManyChat, ManyChat. So that, and there's a free version that's, really super useful. And so, that's a little bit more advanced, I will admit. But, once you're in a place, or, if you're kind of tech savvy and want to give it a try, I am finding that really does make a difference, because that way people get that reminder. Like, you can set it up so people actually get a reminder on Messenger, an hour before you go live, for example, or, however you set it up. Some people like to give that reminder like 2 minutes before they go live. I'm actually finding, because we experimented with this, and I found that I get better traction if I remind people an hour in advance instead of just like 2 minutes before. One other idea to get the word out is, it's great if you can get in the habit of sending out an email to your database, your email list, letting them know, hey, I'm going live in an hour, and you can just automate that so that it just, goes out. Here's what I'm going to be talking about. Here's some of the things you're going to learn, and here's the link to click at, whatever time you're going live.
Love that.
So, yeah, so you just want to try to get people there and build that momentum. All right, so then The fourth step is to rock your live stream, right? So, you've prepared your content, you've set up your live stream, you've scheduled things, and so now it's time to go live, right? And so this is obviously the most exciting part, but also perhaps the most terrifying part of the process. But once you get, I just want to assure those of you that have not pushed the button, the damn button, I just want to assure you, because I can attest to this. I'm sure Kiki, you can as well. Once you do it a couple times, it is amazing how much
Oh my
easier it
goodness.
gets.
I almost feel like in a way it's easier because you almost have that crutch of like, oh, but it's live, so it's more raw. So for me, I almost get more nervous for things that are pre-recorded because there's an
Mm.
expectation that it needs to be very polished. And whereas with live streams, you can kind of have fun with the fact that it's not supposed to be perfect.
That's really a good point. That is really, really good. And the reality is that people don't on live streams, they don't want perfect.
No. Yeah.
They do not want perfect.
Mhm.
They just want the real you.
Mhm.
So it really is super powerful. And like we said when we opened this conversation today, it is truly one of the best ways. I can't even think of a better way, honestly. I think maybe it's the best way that we have to expand our reach. We're able to reach people that, never before was even possible. And we're able to really expedite that process of developing the trust with those people because gosh, there's nothing like live video to do that. They're seeing the real you. So it is extraordinarily powerful. So really my encouragement is that if you haven't done it, set, maybe a little baby goal for yourself. Like, okay, I am going to go live. I'm just going to talk even for 2 minutes about something that just, something that really, really well. Just share a tip, share an observation, just get started. And then, you can become more strategic over time. But I think the first step for beginners is just to do it a couple times. And then if you're more advanced, of course, you can really increase your the strategy around it. And the goal would be to grow your audience, get more people live, get the interaction, get the comments rolling, and guys, don't forget to have a call to action. Definitely, you want to be clear on, what are the next steps for people if they want to reach out to you? How do they find you? Maybe you've got like a freebie or some kind of lead magnet that you want to share with people. Let them know how to get it, right? So step 4 is about rocking your live stream. Just a couple of tips there. You want to check your background, obviously. You want to make sure you're kind of clear away the clutter a little bit behind you. Make sure your light source is in front of you. Check your sound, and really just take a deep breath and click the button and start your broadcast. So you want to introduce yourself up front and definitely share why your topic is important. So that is super important. What you don't want to do is go live and kind of wait and whoops. Yeah, always a good idea
Go
to
live and
turn the ringer off. um, okay, there we go. So yeah, what you don't want to do is click the live button and just sit there and wait for people to show up. No, you want to jump right in and get going. Um, you want to, welcome everybody, welcome. And also welcome to those people that are going to listen to the replay because it's really common for people to listen to the replay. And just, remember to smile. That's super important. And look at the camera, right? So a lot of times, you can kind of catch yourself looking at your screen, but which is fine to kind of look up and down, but really what the eye contact is through your camera lens. So, if you need to put a sticky note by that camera lens, whatever you need to do to help you to remember to look directly into that lens. And, thank everyone for coming. Remember to have a call to action. And, just as a bonus tip, a fifth and bonus tip, this is for the more advanced people. You're going to want to repurpose your content, right? Because, oh my goodness, if you're going to do a Facebook Live, let's say every week, same time, same place, why not repurpose this content, right? So it's really a gold mine for you, and it's going to really save you time. So what I like to do is, you definitely want to add captions to your video, and Facebook has that capability. You could also use a paid application such as rev.com, and that's a great option as well. But you definitely want to add captions, again, because lots of people are going to be listening to the recording. And then you can run it through, you can kind of adjust the size to fit into other platforms such as, Instagram, like I said, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So eventually, and again, it's a more advanced strategy, but eventually you want to start repurposing this content. You can actually even, and I highly recommend this, um, take that content and turn it into a blog, right? So you're basically, using that content in multiple different channels.
Perfect.
Yeah. So those are the tips. What do you think? Is that
Love
doable?
it. I'm ready to go live, and I think that we should give all of our listeners that piece of homework. I mean, you invited it. Within the next, let's say, what's a good time frame? 24 hours, 48 hours. Go live, whether you've done it before or not. And as you mentioned, just even if it's just that 2 minute sharing a tip, you now have the blueprint. I really appreciate those tips. This is a no-fail approach, and that's the beauty of live. As you said, Leslie, they want to get to know the real you, so don't be afraid to share it. Thanks so much.
Exactly. You bet. All right. Good to see you, Kiki. And thanks everybody for joining us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.